Comparing the defense from last year to this year, it's interesting because DJ Durkin's impact is going to be felt regardless.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Trying something different on today's bonus show. It's a question asked by you, or specifically Andrew, who is a member of the Everydayer Club. You get access to an ad-free feed when you sign up to the Everydayer Club, as well as an exclusive Discord. And so you could do that by going to lockedonauburn.supercast.com. Andrew Hicks asked me in the Discord, kind of hard to word in a concise question, but can we talk a little bit more about the defense? There's been a lot said about the offense, and rightfully so, but I'd love to hear more of a detailed breakdown of what to expect out of each position group compared to last year. I think that's great. I think when you talk position by position, comparing last year to this year, I think there's two things you need to discuss at each spot. Has the ceiling changed one way or the other? And has the floor changed one way or another? And I think that's how we need to discuss this, because DJ Durkin's impact is going to fluctuate how we should probably view the floor in most of these positions. So defensive line, you lose Bobby Jameson-Travis, Zeke Walker, Jay Hardy, James Ash, Malik Blockton, and Antonio Coleman. And obviously Malik Blockton, I think, is going to be a big part of it hurting the argument for the ceiling. And I think Bobby Jameson-Travis leaving is a big part of discussing the floor, because he was just so solid. I don't think he ever got too high or too low. He was always just so solid. And so you bring back Dallas Walker, which obviously was huge news. And you bring in Cody Sigler. You bring in St. Ferrier from App State. And then you bring in Buddy Mathis from LSU. And then Malik Autry, Jordan Crawford, Darian Smith, I think all represent ceiling. And then same with Corey Wells and Tavion Branch, the freshman. I think Dallas Walker and Cody Sigler are your floors. These guys are going to bring you stability and production and experience. You got to be careful when using production when you talk about the interior defensive line, because it doesn't always really show up as production. Maybe impact is a better word to discuss these guys. I think St. Ferrier has upside. I think Buddy Mathis from LSU has upside. And obviously the rest of the true sophomores with Autry, Crawford, and Smith have tremendous upside. I'm going to say the floor is about the same. And I'm actually going to say the ceiling is maybe just a smidge higher than what it was a year ago, just because there's so many questions about all of these guys, especially Mathis, Autry, Crawford, and Smith. So I think that's going to be a little bit of a push. The return of Dallas Walker is such a big deal. Edge, I think, is a different story. Obviously losing Keldrick Falk and Kieron Crawford, Amaris Williams, Jamonta Waller, Williams, Crawford, Falk, a big deal. Chris Murray, I don't think we fully know yet. He's popped up in some of the Instagram lives and saying War Eagle with players. So hopefully that's a good thing. If you bring him back, I think the conversation about the edge room is totally different. But you bring in Deshaun Womack from Ole Miss and Nate Johnson from Mizzou/App State. And then obviously Jared Smith, Joe Phillips, JJ Falk coming back. We'll see how the true freshman Chris Wells plays into all of this. I don't think anybody's going to argue with this, that the floor is lower and the ceiling is lower in the edge room. I've been pretty consistent saying pass rush is my largest concern about this defense going into spring. I've been saying defensive line. I'm going to change my verbiage. It is now pass rush. I really think the return of Dallas Walker is that big of a deal. So those are the guys that are going to put their hands on the line of scrimmage. Let's go back one more to linebacker. Obviously, Xavier Atkins and DeMarcus Riddick, Elijah Melendez, Bryce Diaz, all coming back. You add in Michael Matthews-Canty coming up from a smaller level of competition. Jaquez Wilkes, Shadarius Tootle, Adam Balagoon-Ali, all can be elite freshmen under DJ Durkin. You lose Robert Woodyard and you lose Caleb Wheatland. Would love to have Woodyard, but I understand why he left. And so when you look at this room, like, I think the floor is higher. I think the ceiling is higher. This is a room that got better just by keeping a lot of these guys and an incredible balance. You're seeing this a little bit in the defensive line room, the interior D line, but like you've got guys who are ready to play for an NFL draft spot, as well as true freshmen and true sophomores there that can be great for the future of this defense. And then lastly, defensive back. I mean, we lost so much, right? With Jay Crawford, Kayin Lee, Rand Strader, but and there's several more. Donovan Starr, I think, is interesting. Kinsley Faustin, and then some guys that just didn't play. So then, like, the question is the ceiling higher now because you have, I think, more playable options than you did? But I have a hard argument for the ceiling being higher because of the loss of Kayin Lee and Jay Crawford. I mean, those are two guys that are going to be absolute studs and they're going to be coveted when they enter the draft after the season. So I think the ceiling and the floor is lower in the defensive back room, but there's an absolutely solid chance that these guys figure it out. Shamar Arnaud, there's an argument, and there's a chance after spring we come back and do a similar topic that Shamar Arnaud's ceiling is higher than I expected it. There's also a chance that Andre Jordan Jr., the experienced corner that came over from UCLA, there's a chance that his floor is higher than I realized it being. There's an absolute chance of that. And then Champ Anthony, Rayshawn Pleasant, those guys, Caleb Harris and Sylvester Smith all coming back helps. We'll see how Jack Luttrell helps the transfer DB from Arizona, and as well as, his name is Fred Gaskin, the safety from USF. And they've got some younger guys. Obviously, Eric Winters is going to be a huge factor. New boy Fagans Blake would be. And I think you can look at those younger guys and say, hey, if you want to say that the ceiling is higher in the defensive back room because of that group, I won't push back on it. But just right now, is that enough to outweigh the upside and ceiling of Jay Crawford and Kayin Lee? We'll see. We'll see. DJ Durkin's going to have his hand in all of this, and I think that's really going to be a big deal for the front seven players. And I want to touch on that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Number 1 ranked UConn dominated Tennessee 96-66, turning a halftime tie into a historic win and avenging last season's loss by delivering the largest margin in the rivalry's history. AZ Fudd had 27 points and Sarah Strong added 26 as the Huskies remain perfect on the season, reminding everyone why they are the reigning national champions. In the Big Ten, number 2 UCLA rolled past number 8 Iowa 88-65, powered by 22 points from Angela Dukeledge and a huge advantage in the paint, staking their claim as a national threat. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Indeed. Hiring is not just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is absolutely the move. Here's a stat that says it all. In the time we've been talking just during this ad break, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get the job, the premium status that it deserves. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. There have been times since DJ Durkin has arrived at Auburn as defensive coordinator where we have said, yes, that is a position of concern. And then what happens? That concern goes away because he's a really good coach. And that's why there was chatter and push from the Auburn fan base to consider him to be the head coach. There's also why we heard so many positive things from players when he was interim. And a big reason why we saw such a shift from, what we saw when it was Hugh Freeze's team to when it became DJ Durkin's team during the season. Everybody has a high opinion of DJ Durkin within Auburn, and these players certainly do. And it's because of that, because he coaches, because he develops. But since he's been here, like there is a difference here, and we can't ignore the difference. And that is, okay, there's been springs since DJ Durkin has been here where the defensive line was questionable, and then the defensive line ended up being okay, but they went out and added guys after spring. That's no longer a thing with the new portal window. There's only one. There's no post-spring portal anymore, which is good across the board. But when you have needs in a certain spot, that's something there. So my big question, and once again, I'm focusing more on pass rush, not the defensive line as a whole, but just the pass rush aspect of this. Who can we see DJ Durkin turn into a star? Because I think those snaps are going to be made available at the end and when it comes to just rushing the passer on 3rd and long. Obviously, we're all expecting Jared Smith to take a step forward. We're also hearing more and more chatter about JJ Falk, who might be one of the more important names to watch going into the spring. DJ Durkin knew the status of this team, as well as, Vontrell King-Williams being retained as defensive line coach. I just have to assume and choose to believe that there are so many discussions between this defensive staff who knows these guys that we have not seen yet. Jared Smith in a starting role, Joe Phillips, JJ Falk, and the front office operations that were trying to bring in talent via the portal. And they chose to bring in 2 guys that were kind of pieces at their previous stops with Deshaun Womack and Nate Johnson. Both have experience in the SEC, by the way. I think that's very important here. Can those 2 guys be role players here or take a step forward while these collection of younger players also take that step forward? Jared Smith, Joe Phillips, JJ Falk. We also could see Darian Smith emerge as another edge, scoot him outside. We saw him do it at times last year. Could he become a rotation piece at strong side end? I don't think it's out of the question at all. If DJ Durkin thought there was a major concern at pass rush, I think they would have addressed that. And once again, that is the position that I'm most concerned with at edge / just the general pass rush, being able to push the pocket from the interior as well as collapse it from the outside. That's my biggest question. So for Andrew that asked this as part of the Everydayer Club and the exclusive Discord, you asking that, like, that's where I'm at. When you talk about strengths, it's clearly linebacker. When you talk about weaknesses, I think it's pass rush right now. Is there a path where DJ Durkin can coach and develop these guys to be the next stars of the Auburn defense? Yes, absolutely. We just got to wait and see. And that's going to be a big part of spring. Is seeing, okay, which one of these underclassmen, we saw Jared Smith a good bit, but Joe Phillips, JJ Falk, like, all right, what does that next step look like? So if you want to ask a question, I'm going to try to do a few of these a week. Join the Everydayer Club. Once again, lockedonauburn.supercast.com. For audio listeners, you get an ad-free feed that you get access to, and it's compatible with Apple, Spotify, whatever podcast app you use. And you also get an invite link to be joined in the Locked On Auburn Discord. Or it's the Locked On Everydayer Club Discord, but you get added as an Auburn fan. So there we go. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.